Episode 3, Secondo, written by Angelina Burnett, Brian Fuller, and Steve Lightfoot, directed by Vincenzo Natali. Welcome to Fate and Circumstance, a Hannibal fan podcast. My name is Felix Fanfaron Fern, and these are my co-hosts.
Hear that? Do you hear that? That's a load of silence.
Oh yeah, totally. It was me. He starts.
It's a load of silence because I said I'd be silent. So there you go.
No,
You're all
you've
wrong.
ruined it.
The
You
polls are
ruined it
wrong.
because you made me laugh.
Yeah.
The cough made me
That's
laugh
my
so hard, I don't
hello.
know why.
That's my hello. That wasn't even my cough. That was Calf's.
Oh.
Literally couldn't have timed it at the worst time.
I did
I was
the intro
trying to
wrong
be
as
quiet
well,
for the
so
effect. And the minute that my silence started, we had the so thanks for that. Anyway, silence. You're all wrong in the
Melisa
polls.
is
Fuck all of
sore
you.
and bitter because of the poll.
Yeah,
It was very
Oh.
close.
That's my hello.
Okay, I get that.
Would you like to introduce yourself, Shaira?
Yes. I keep forgetting to introduce myself. I'm Shaira Bambi, and I'm quite giggly right now.
So we did do a poll on whether finding
Yeah.
the Anthony Dear thing was funny or scary, and Melissa lost. Those people found it scary. However, the poll doesn't count because I didn't have the foresight to add a third "I want to fuck it" option.
That's
Oh,
true.
please don't fuck the scary deer
also-
monster.
Some people just want to.
These polls are rigged because I always lose them, so I think everyone's just voting against what I say on purpose. So fuck everyone. Fuck all of you.
Hey, you didn't win. You won the last one, I think.
No?
No, I think Melissa
No.
has always lost.
Oh,
Yeah.
Could be worse.
could be worse.
How can it be worse? I lose everyone.
Hey, you're
It was
unique.
close.
You have a unique
Right. Whatever.
take.
We're going to start out with some fan fiction shout-outs. To begin
Yay!
with, we're going to do one by DB Mars because that was explicitly requested. So, Shaira, go
Yay, I
ahead
get to
reading
read
an excerpt from A Previous Entanglement by DB Mars.
I get to read it. So I have not read this before, as previously, because I wanted to be surprised and fun. So, do you have trouble with taste? I ask softly benign. My therapy voice. Will hates it. My thoughts are often not tasty. I do love watching him squirm, but my enjoyment is clouded by sudden images of comforting Will in the wake of his bloody investigations, holding him through his suffering, waking him when I knew he was having nightmares so vivid they dampened our sheets with terror sweat. Nor mine, no effective barriers. He knows this. I told him about Misha. He's the first person I've told. Save Bedelia du Maurier. He doesn't know that I ate her, but understands how she was taken from me. I make thoughts. Association comes quickly, I say. This may appear to Jack like some brilliant on-the-spot psychoanalysis, but I know because Will's told me his traumas in return. So do thoughts, he insists, looking down into the sweet blackness of his coffee cup with a petulant little turn to his lip. I like that. That's really poetic. It's really cool.
It's really good. So, A Previous Entanglement is a short fic that DB did that is a twist on the beginning of Hannibal, with the idea that Will and Hannibal met before Jack went into Will's classroom to borrow his imagination, and they end up falling for each other and having a sexual relationship before, and then having to pretend they don't know each other.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's really good and really fun,
Yeah,
and
really fun.
DB has a habit of, I don't know if she's done this in all of her fics, but certainly most of them, when she writes from Will's POV, she tends to do third person, and when she does Hannibal, she does first person.
Yeah.
And she is probably the only fanfic writer I will read that does first person, because I'm not normally into it. But she does really well with Hannibal first person, and it's also a very, very funny fic, so I highly recommend it. There's
Sounds
like
fun.
some of it's in the form of like Hannibal's diary entries, and they're really like short and to the point, including like sex acts, and they're really funny. Next, we have a fic called Pretty Kitty by Strats Wrote. So Melissa is going to read us an excerpt from that.
Lovely. All I saw was the title Pretty Kitty, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to read anything. The bowl, as Hannibal had suspected, was not empty. In fact, it was quite full around the edges. It was only the middle that had been hollowed out, no doubt as a result of Will picking through and choosing his favourites. See? Will said, prodding his finger into the bowl. Hannibal raised an eyebrow. That's not what empty means, Will. Will glared at him. You can see all the way to the bottom. Hannibal reached into the bowl, adjusting it so the bottom was covered, and it once again appeared halfway full. Diminished from the morning, yes, but not so badly as to be in danger of running out. As he did so, he noticed a distinct lack of something. Will looked at the bowl, a light flush spreading across his face. Okay, it's more full than I thought it was, he admitted, but it's not fresh. I'm not refilling your bowl, Will, Hannibal said patiently. Dinner will be ready in an hour or two. You'll spoil your appetite. You want me to starve? Will complained. Oh my God. I got it towards the end.
Cat Will.
Once
my days.
once it clicks, it's really funny.
Yeah.
So this was the first part of this fic that I ever saw because someone shared it on Twitter and I lost my shit at how funny it was at the idea of Will being exactly like a little shit of a cat.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what they do. It's a wonderful fic. I was talking about it with someone in a server recently as well because we're both in love with it. Because I have recently been writing a cat hybrid fic, and this one is wonderful. It's surprisingly emotional in places, but also very, very funny.
I think I want to read it.
It's really good. I highly recommend it. There's a really silly bit, like with a laser pointer. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's really, really funny.
Please, I think I'm actually going to read it as well. I got it.
You really should.
I got it too. I got that he was a cat. As soon as he said "see," so Will said prodding his finger into the bowl. I was like, "Oh my God, he's a cat! He's a cat man."
I did not get it until the end when it was like, "I'm not refilling your bowl, Will." I was like, "Oh my God, this fucking cat!"
It's so good. It's literally like a bowl of like normal treats, but because Will is part cat, it seems like a food bowl.
Yeah.
And Will as a character is adamant that he is like not a cat but a human, and it's really, really funny.
Amazing.
So good. Right, on to the episode. So, with my weekly question, what did you think of the episode?
We get to see a cutie pie, and I like that. Chiyoh's the best. I really enjoyed it. It was really fun episode. There was parts that were dark. I really found one part really fascinating because I like how they did it, and you probably know which part is quite morbid. It's probably quite morbid, and I'm not going to mention it until later. You know what? It might actually be. You know what? I'll say it later. But yeah, it was a fun episode. It was fun to see Will going to the home of Hannibal and seeing Chiyoh, and also learning more about Hannibal. And also Hannibal looks sad. He looks sad again.
He is very sad in this episode.
He was happy, and then Will came back into his life, and he's all sad again. But yeah,
I feel like it looked like we were sort of watching a VOD of someone's dream. Like a lot of it sort of felt like it wasn't real, like a little bit whimsical, a little bit dystopian, a little bit like weird. And I felt like a weird uneasiness the entire time watching it. Not in a bad way, but I was just like, what the fuck is actually happening right now? Because
Mm.
I feel like we just get a load of information, a load of shit just happens, and there's so much happening simultaneously. And I was like, I understand on a literal sense what's happened, but also what the piss did I just watch?
You know what? I agree. It did feel a bit of a whimsical
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah, the script even like alludes to like the fairy tale nature of it in places and stuff as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, good picking up on that, Melissa. But yeah, no, I agree. It does feel like a whimsical episode.
Yeah, it's a weird one because it's very in and out of fantasy, like constantly.
Yeah.
So, this episode is called Secondo. Despite being the third episode, Secondo is, as you can probably guess from the name, the second course in an Italian multi-course meal. It's usually very protein forward with things like sausages, meatballs, fish, seafood, or poultry. Sometimes as well, maybe cheese or eggs. Makes it sound like it's quite heavy, but it's normally in very small portions.
Okay.
Okay.
Nom. So,
I just want more pasta. I like pasta.
there should be more pasta. I love pasta.
There should be more pasta.
This first talking point is ridiculous, but it's just me getting something off of my chest. So, because I had an infuriating conversation with a cis man on a Hannibal Facebook group yesterday, a cis het man.
Cis het men, fuck off. Joking.
The hetero was a very upsetero. I'd like to start off by asking you a super simple question. Ignoring our queer biases, given what you've seen of the show so far and how it delves into and presents Will and Hannibal's relationship, I don't want a complex answer. Do you think that it suggests some form of romance between Will and Hannibal, regardless of whether or not it's perhaps toxic or one-sided?
Yes, next question.
Cool. Shaira?
Well, I swear it's just they want to hold on to this bromance thing, but there's a difference between bromance and romance, and this is definitely a romance. There's a romance between them.
Thank you, I feel justified.
Yep.
Cis het men get really pissed off about people, quote unquote, twisting a quote unquote bromance because they're fucking jealous that their dick isn't up someone's ass. Just shut up, get your dick wet, and fucking open your eyes. That's all I want to say.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cis het men who really desperately want Hannibal to be cis het because they want to admire him as this strong, violent villain character. And it's like, he's effeminate as fuck, are you okay? But that's not what they want him to be, therefore they really need him to be straight because they like Hannibal.
Yeah.
It's sad.
I like Hannibal, but I like Hannibal because of his effeminate traits, actually. So no.
It's so silly. It's like,
the world revolves around me and I have a massive dick and I've got a gun. Fuck off. It was written by queer people.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
A lot of people like hold on to the fact that the first series was supposed to like be centered around the idea of men exploring friendship in a sort of more platonic manner, but that changed, and there were like articles about that, but they're from 2013.
Yeah.
After the first series, it changed direction completely. So anyone who doesn't understand that is in intense denial.
It's like, even if I wasn't queer / not a cis man, if I was a cis man, I would clearly see that there's a romance between them two. Like, right? That's very obvious. It's really difficult not to see.
I don't think you need to be gay to see it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, because even if you can argue there's like, you know, up until maybe towards the end of season 2, maybe you can say like, you know, they just seemed very close. They just seemed like extremely good friends, like they care about each other. But then are you fucking out of your mind that the way that Hannibal puts his hand on Will's face and Will is like quite literally looking at him like, I am feeling a lot of feelings. You're out of your fucking mind. Honestly. And you actually need to grow up. Oh my god, men like each other. Fuck. And like, men that might not necessarily know they like men might end up liking each other.
Yeah.
Fucking grow up.
Will.
Will. I 100% agree with Melissa. If you like the last episode of season 2, like that confirms it. Like Hannibal wants to build a family with Will, and like, how can you not see that as a romantic gesture?
Yeah, He wanted them to run away together. It's like,
Running away together.
what?
Yeah.
What about that is straight?
Yeah. What
If
about
you
that?
replaced any of those characters with a female character, you would not
Mhm.
be saying that that is platonic.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
It's literally just fucking homophobic rhetoric. Fuck off.
Yep. I completely agree. Well, my PC stopped making noises at me. Anyway.
Easy, stop it.
Being so mean. So, getting on to the actual episode and away from my soapbox, but thank you for confirming what I know to be true.
Anytime.
I love this beautiful echo chamber. Thank you.
I mean, look, if I bought my cis het friend, he would probably say the same, and he loves Hannibal.
Yeah,
well.
I've like spoken to straight people who love the show, and they think it's gay as hell as well.
Yeah.
So in this episode, we are introduced to Chiyoh. What do you think of Chiyoh? I know what Shaira's going to say.
Yeah.
But no,
I'm waiting for pretty.
It's pretty, and also it's not just that. Like I would have said smash, but you know what? I want to be best friends with her. Actually,
Hell yeah.
I want to be
Yeah.
best friends with her. She sounds cool, and she has good morals. I like good morals.
I feel for her a little bit.
I feel for her too.
Yeah.
Because I feel like she's been put in a position, not been told the entire truth, and she's just been, you know, maybe put in a rock and a hard place where she just, this is what you're doing and nothing else. And I feel a bit for her because I don't think she wanted any of this, and I don't think she knows what she's doing and why. She literally was like, "Oh yeah, he killed Misha, like Hannibal told me, and that's it." Like, I want to know why was she just friends with Misha? Was she more than friends, or did they like go to school together? Were they like sisters? It was what is it? Are they related? Are they not related? Is she technically related to Hannibal? I have questions. It left me with so many questions. That's why I was like, what the fuck did I actually just watch? Because again, so much we just introduced to and like no info.
Yeah, 100%. You do get the vibe that she's holding on to innocence. I kind of like that.
Yes.
Because especially towards the end, it was like you kind of made me kill someone. It's like, and that the scaredness of it.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I think one of the really nice things about Chiyoh is the fact that she is like simultaneously gentle and strong at the same time, and it works together.
Yeah.
Like, she can handle a gun. She's confident with a gun. She's a hunter, but she's also she also has strong morals and innocence, and it just seems like a genuinely good person. She believes in the goodness of Hannibal. It seems from what she says. Understandably skeptical of Will.
Yeah.
I will tell you a little bit about Chiyoh because the show doesn't tell you.
Of course it doesn't.
So there are some issues with season 3 in that they clearly had more planned for other seasons that never happened.
Okay.
So because of this, they obviously wanted to retcon a bunch of stuff about Hannibal's past, partly because the show is set in a different time to the books. So there was going to be like introducing more of Hannibal's family, which obviously never happened. So instead, what we do get is Chiyoh. It never really tells you this, but Chiyoh was Lady Murasaki's maid. Lady Murasaki was Hannibal's aunt. Now, in book timeline, Misha wouldn't have been around at that time, so they've moved stuff around in the timeline so that Chiyoh could be the one to kind of say what happened. Whereas in actuality, Misha was already dead before Hannibal was being looked after by his aunt and uncle.
Okay.
So it's a little bit all over the place. But yeah, so essentially Hannibal would have been quite young, living in the same home as her, which is how they know each other. They were essentially... Chiyoh was very close to Murasaki, so a maid, but also part of the family, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Wait, we didn't see Hannibal's dad? I thought that was Hannibal's dad in the cage.
Where did you get that from?
I don't know. I don't know where I got that from. I just thought it.
Okay,
I thought it was implied.
Definitely not Hannibal's dad. Not related to Hannibal at all.
I did not get that at any point.
I don't know why that was my thought.
Yeah, surprise. Nope.
Nope. Yeah. I think it was just because the whole episode was around him and Misha and him being there. Like, why else would he be there? Yeah. Also, I think it's
because he killed Misha.
he probably killed Misha.
Or at least
and
that's
also,
what we're told.
yeah, and also I think I've also added on top in my headcanon, on top of it, and Hannibal getting abused by his adopted father or something.
Yeah,
Which
no,
is,
that's purely Shaira headcanon.
yeah, that's pretty much how I headcanon, and I think that's what. Oh yeah, never mind.
I don't know a whole lot about Hannibal's parents,
Yeah.
but I don't believe they were abusive, not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Yeah, also, so we met Chiyoh, but also Jack is alive. How did it feel to see Jack?
Weird, concerning. Do I believe it? I'm traumatized.
Wait, believe that Jack's alive, or?
I mean, he talked
Yes.
to the detective. It's a bit difficult to convince us that
Yeah,
he isn't
unless
alive.
you now think that Inspector Patsy is a ghost.
Yeah. And they're both both ghosts are talking to each other and they're showing us. Yeah.
I don't know anymore.
I 100% get why. Because like this show lies to us so much.
In it. Like I just give up. Like how is he alive?
Yeah.
How did he survive that? That was crazy.
Spoilers, Jack is alive, he's not a ghost.
Yeah. See, my first thought was he's as beautiful as the day I lost him.
I like how you say this, Felix, as if you are a source to be trusted.
Yeah.
As if you haven't fucking lied to us before.
When I tell you things directly, that tends to be true.
Okay, rewind to like
Abigail
nearly 2
is the
seasons of you
only
telling us
exception.
Abigail is dead.
Okay,
sorry
normally,
guys, Abigail's dead. You literally think she's dead.
Okay,
I think that
Abigail
was
is the
because
main exception.
I think that was because I was so adamant that Abigail was alive.
Or it's because you would have been adamant regardless. So I couldn't be quiet because if I was quiet, you'd know I was that she was alive.
Like, yeah, that's true. That is true.
So she was the one exception where I had to outright lie. Normally, I will just be quiet and not tell you something.
Yeah.
Even though we both knew that she was alive regardless because we never saw a body.
Yeah, we never saw a body.
But it was on for such a long part of the series. It was important for me to bullshit.
That's true.
Of course you knew she was alive. But I wasn't gonna be like, oh yeah, she is.
She's alive, yeah, that's true.
It was either that or just be silent every time, so I had to lie.
Yeah.
Also, it's more fun.
Also, just quickly, people who are listening, me and Felix have a back and forth that that Jack looks just as good in the soul patch as he does with a beard. And I think
we're gonna have to do another poll because
Yes,
I'm doing another fucking poll. He does not look just as good with the soul patch. The soul patch was terrible. He never should have had one, and he looks so much better with the beard.
Okay, he does look. He does look good with a beard.
Don't bother, Shari. You're gonna lose. The people side with Felix. There's no point.
Don't blame me for you losing. It's not my fault.
It is.
You know what? Yes, let's do it because then I get to lose the least, and then Melissa might feel better.
Or the people will just favour you in spite now that I've said this, and I'm just going to be gaslit this entire time.
Oh God!
Oh no! Please don't vote for Shaira to gaslight Melissa. I understand the notion, but I don't want you voting for the soul patch.
No, go for the soul patch.
Unless people actually do like the soul patch, which fair.
Yeah, I think
both.
people like the soul patch.
I'm in the middle.
Exactly.
I like both. Keep me out of
That's
this.
exactly it. I'm in the middle with both.
All right, we'll do 3 options then. We'll have beard, soul patch, and both.
I'm on team both.
I'm team both too.
No, you have to. No, I want to have 3 options to represent the 3 of us.
Okay, I'm team soul patch then.
Thank you. You're forced into this position.
Yeah.
Democracy.
Democracy. Hey, that was a democracy. You were like, you have to have it.
No, totally democracy. I'm always fair. I don't really have anything to add. It's just, Jack's alive. That's nice.
Yeah, that's nice.
Nice seeing Jack. Interesting seeing him chat with Patsy. We don't know much yet, other than he says that he's there for Will. That's all we really know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of good quotes between them.
Yeah, the conversation's really nice. Actually, on that note, let's do something I never do anymore for a bit of cut dialogue. If I can find it. Yeah. So in the original script, give me a second because there's a bit I didn't note down. In the episode, Jack says, Patsy asks, "Are you a believer?" And Jack says something like, "Aren't we all?" But in the script, what it actually says is, "We're all born believers," and then belief comes with imagination, which he says in the episode. But then in the script, Patsy says, "Some believe the beeswax of that candle is Christ's body, the wick his soul, and flame his divinity." And Jack says, "I'm not talking about religion. Religion isn't ingrained in human nature. Curiosity is. And after curiosity comes belief." And Patsy says, "We are curious about being greater than ourselves and we imagine them." And I just really like that.
I like that better than the quote.
Yeah, in the episode, it just kind of makes out that Jack is religious, and in the script, it's actually a bit more in-depth than that.
Yeah, I think they just did. I think they might have just taken out not to upset people. Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe, or they just cut it shorter. I don't know.
Yeah, might have.
But it's a nice little bit of dialogue.
Yes.
So, in this episode, Will goes to Lithuania to visit Hannibal's past in hopes to understand him better. Hannibal feels he cannot go home, though his memory palace contains rooms mirroring it, both good and bad. Given how infallible he thinks he is, do you find it interesting that he's human enough to know that he will not risk triggering old trauma?
I did find that very interesting.
Yeah.
I think, I think he's emotionally aware of himself, and I don't think he necessarily thinks being emotionally aware of himself makes him less of a god amongst men kind of thing, or demon god amongst men, as we kind of established. I think also that's why one of the things I really love about him is that he understands that emotions are core to every living being, and even a god or a demon or a devil will have those emotions, because I just think it's quite quite important. You think quite important. Yeah. I think that's kind of one of the things that I kind of love about Hannibal himself. So I started blabbering for a bit because
That's what the podcast is.
One of my my family members walked in, which is why I was like, oh god, I lost my train of thought when they did. But yeah, I'm gonna end it there because I've lost my train of thought. But yeah, no, I think he is still he still thinks he's a godlike individual, even if he understands his emotions and his brain in such a way that he knows that stepping foot into his family home area would cause some trauma and cause some pain to him. So yeah, no, everyone can decide not to be in pain, and I think gods can also do the same.
I think it's very interesting of a contrast of who he's shown himself to be. This entire show is like this, I don't know, big macho man. Well, to an extent, until he started doing his old crying thing with the end of season 2. But like, just this whole crying thing over losing his one true love. No, just the whole thing of like him showing himself to be like really invincible and undefeatable, and nothing can get to him. He's so smart. He always upset in front of everyone. Like, he's amazing. He's God. Like, nothing is like everything's beneath him, nothing's above him. But clearly this is something about this is so like crucial, so powerful, that it even makes him not want to go back. Like, it's something that's it's almost, it's so interesting of like, what is it that even like will quote unquote defeat Hannibal? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's really interesting to know someone's kryptonite in a way of like what can defeat God.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm very interested of like what happened, because maybe it's like something that changed him and turned him into what he is now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What happened?
Will we find out? I have issues with this series.
okay.
So I have some little bits and bobs to say regarding Will going to Lithuania. One of the fun things I wanted to point out is in season 1, Bedelia said to Hannibal, "You spend a lot of time building walls, Hannibal. It's natural to want to see if someone is clever enough to climb over them." What does Will do in this episode?
Climb over walls.
he
Well-
literally scales the gate fence to get into the Lecter estate.
Yeah.
And of his own volition as well, which I think is
Yeah.
quite nice, because Hannibal normally is that came about when Hannibal was setting him bullshit challenges.
Yeah.
Whereas this is just Will doing his own thing.
Yeah.
Setting in bullshit challenges like side
Bullshit
quests in the
challenges, side
main.
quest.
Look, the going after Tobias Budge thing was the world's worst side quest.
Yeah, that's true.
In this episode, I'm going to now mention something I've mentioned on the Discord, so you'll see me rant about this before. Or not rant, but I was proud of myself. Something that other people have already thought of, but I hadn't thought of it before. In this episode, we see a couple of versions of the Lecter family crest, which features what appear to be 2 lions on the sides, and then a couple of birds on top, and in the centre, a large snake. In episode 1, Hannibal tells Will that he sees him as the mongoose he wants under the house as the snakes slither by. So now, having seen and noticed the Lecter family crest, I personally like to interpret this upon reflection that it's not only Hannibal expressing that Will is capable of both catching killers and exacting his own brand of violence, but that Hannibal is already aware that Will could see him and would inevitably eventually discover that he was a snake.
Yeah.
Because mongooses don't only kill snakes, but they're actually immune to the venom of most snakes. Meaning that Will was and is potentially Hannibal's one true weakness. Because he's the only one who won't ever succumb to his wiles, and he possesses the unique gift of being able to overcome him.
Oh.
Overcome or come over him.
I was feeling so smart about that.
Yeah.
You come over here with your cum jokes.
Well, that's what I did last week. I had to read
That
as a
is
little
true.
double entendre, and now I'm
yeah.
gonna make the cum joke.
Yeah,
That's
that
fair.
I honestly didn't notice that, and I did notice the snakes.
You didn't
just
notice
the
cum?
fact.
Sorry.
Surprise cum.
Surprise cum. Okay, I think everyone loves surprise cum, but no, that's not what I was talking about. I didn't notice this. I didn't notice the snakes. But I didn't notice that similarity, or at least I didn't have that in the back of my mind about him mentioning that Will is a mongoose. Yeah,
it was
really,
only
really cool.
because we watched the episode together, and then I think it was the day after, or a couple of days after we watched it, someone on Twitter asked what the mongoose statement in episode 1 meant. And so I went to them just well, it's because he says it because Will can capture killers like Jack thinks, but he's not just like what Jack thinks, he's also capable of violence. That's what Hannibal means. But then my brain went, mongooses are immune to snake venom. And then my brain went, there's a snake on the crest. And then I had a beautiful mind moment, and it all, so that was fun. I felt very clever. Of course, many other people have put the exact same thing together. But I would like to say that we're all clever.
Yes, you're all very clever.
Yeah.
Everybody's smart.
Hell yeah. Also, in the Lecter estate, we see only one grave that has fresh flowers on it, which is for Misha Lecter. The word beneath her name on the tombstone is "I apologise to Lithuanians, I cannot pronounce this." I desperately tried to find a pronunciation online and could not find any, so I'm going to say it in a British pronunciation, which would be Mylima, which means beloved. The flowers are birds of paradise. Their flower language is joy and freedom, so I'm wondering if maybe that's to suggest that Misha's soul has been freed to be in paradise, because that's also another term for heaven.
Yeah.
That's just my guess. I don't know if that is the case. So let's go back to talking points, and I needed to write this one in. So your responses to this line when we watched the episode for the first time was so funny that I have to ask, how did you feel about Bedelia asking Hannibal, "How did your sister taste?"
So weird.
I laughed. It was funny. It was weird, and yeah, similarly, it was like, oh, she's being rude. She's gonna die. But at the same time, I think he wants to die, or he wants some form of escape. So she's prodding him. It was really, really funny.
Because it could be like a massive, like, big brain move from Bedelia, like, oh my god, did she figure something out, or is she just like posing the question for him to be like, I didn't eat her, or oh, she blah blah blah, or just to try and get him to confess, or like he's gonna say like I didn't and that was true. I don't know. I don't want to believe anything in the show until I have viable evidence. Because traumatized. It was just it was just the fact that she said that and then completely submerged into water and that was it. And it was just like, what a line to say. It was just like, is it Madagascar? And the penguins are like, you didn't see anything. Like, it was that moment. It was just like, what is going on?
It was a power move, I think. It was a
How
power
did your
move.
sister taste? Like, that was me making the sounds of her going underwater.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
15 plus years of theatre school. Thank you very much.
I do think this episode is very interesting in terms of Bedelia, because we've seen her being what is clearly a victim, and now the narrative is getting a bit hazy, because Hannibal is becoming more vulnerable, but he's also becoming more volatile, because he's a lot more unpredictable, as we saw with the unexpected violence in this episode.
Yes.
In a very not Hannibal-esque way. However, despite the fact, even though he's becoming more dangerous, Bedelia is also, poking him a lot. She's poking the bear, and it's getting a bit weird and a bit tense.
Yeah.
Well, I think as you told us before, that it implies that they're fucking, right?
Yes, so it was confirmed more from another episode. There's like a later episode. It's not really a spoiler. They're wearing night clothes in the scene. That's it. But that was what I believe made Brian Fuller confirm it's meant to be a post-coital. Some people are kind of like, I don't want to believe it, so therefore it didn't happen. But the general, like, yes, the sensuality between them is on purpose. It is supposed to subtly suggest that they are kidnapper and victim, therapist and patient, both ways, and having a sexual romantic relationship.
Yeah.
Complicated.
What I think we'd more accurately call a rebound.
Rebound.
Yeah.
Literally, he's heartbroken, and Gillian Anderson is there, so understandable.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I don't understand it because I had wife Gillian and wife Gillian Anderson. But
well, technically they're pretending to be married, so there's that.
Yeah, true.
Got their wedding rings and everything.
Yeah.
I'm now going to ramble a little bit. I am going to talk about Hannibal Lecter.
Woo!
So as I've kind of already said, there were plans to introduce characters from his past into the show. At varying points, there were talks with David Bowie to play his uncle Robertus. But those talks kept being kind of delayed, and then eventually it became apparent the reason that was happening is because David Bowie was very unwell. Because he passed away in 2016, which is the year after Hannibal ended.
Yeah.
So because of this, a lot of his origins, like Hannibal's origins, remain unknown in the show. They wanted to have Lady Murasaki in this season originally as well, not Chiyoh, so they also changed that. So I wanted to take the opportunity to try and give a quick rundown into some parts of Hannibal's past, because we'll never get them otherwise, basically.
Okay.
So I'm like, well, if the show isn't going to tell you, I'll fucking tell you.
Thank you.
Because it's fun extra information. It doesn't take anything away from the show, but it's a nice little, this is what would happen in the books.
Okay.
So, obviously there would have been differences because the show takes place at a later time. And also, like, I haven't read Hannibal Rising, which is the book that goes into Hannibal's past, so a lot of this is just from what I've read online. So Thomas Harris wrote a prequel called Hannibal Rising that went into detail about Hannibal's youth, but it's also worth noting that he apparently only wrote this book because Dino De Laurentiis, who owned the cinematic rights for Hannibal, like Silence of the Lambs and the other films, threatened to make a prequel film with or without him, so he wrote a book. And then wrote the screenplay to the film as well. Yeah, that's probably a lot of the reason why people don't like Hannibal Rising and think it's the worst book.
Yeah.
Because he was pressured into it, basically.
Mhm.
And Martha De Laurentiis is the executive producer of this show, by the way. So yeah, I'm not going to say anything because she passed away.
Okay.
So Hannibal, in the books, was born into Lithuanian nobility in 1933. When he was 8 years old during World War II, his family, which included his parents and his little sister Misha, I think she was 2 years old at the time, escaped to evade German troops. Abandoning the castle meant that it was raided by German soldiers, and they took all of their artwork and stuff. 3 years, I mean World War II. 3 years later, when Hannibal was 11, Soviet tanks stopped at their lodge and they were hit by a German dive bomber. Everyone was killed except for Hannibal and Misha.
Oh.
They were then captured by deserters, where awful things happened that I shall speak about in a later episode. You'll find out why I say that a bit later.
Okay.
But that meant that Hannibal was left alone. He was injured by the deserters, and he also became mute. He returned to Lecter Castle, but at that point it had been turned into a Soviet orphanage, and he was an orphan. He was traumatized further as an orphan there, but then he was later eventually removed by his uncle Robertus and aunt Lady Murasaki, the latter of which ends up primarily raising him in France. So then you are introduced to Chiyoh, who is Murasaki's maid, and that's her connection to Hannibal. And obviously in the show they move the order of things around, because actually Misha would have already been dead. But for this, she wouldn't have been. And then it's basically from there that Hannibal develops into a killer. I think one of the earliest things he did is someone was racist to Lady Murasaki in a market, so he ends up assaulting him. And it goes on from there. So that's basically, in a nutshell, Hannibal's origin story.
Oh.
Wow.
I mean, you got to kill racists. Sorry, but I get that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
No, I love the fact that one of his big turning points as I think a teenager was witnessing his aunt experiencing racism.
Yeah.
Is horrible but great as a story point.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where even taking away the problems with Hannibal as a person, he had a really shitty time.
He did, yeah. And I completely got the whole dad thing wrong.
Yes,
I don't know where I
did.
got that.
I don't either.
Yeah,
It's always that thing
maybe
of,
it was his uncle. It's not his uncle.
Yeah.
I know it's not his uncle.
There's always that thing of there's a reason, but it's not an excuse. We all know
Yeah.
that everything that he's doing is inherently bad, but having knowing the reason, it understandable. I think that goes for sort of most things that people do that are kind of deemed, illegal or anything like that. People that are criminals and blah blah blah. It's just okay, this is objectively bad, but however, the reasoning behind it, we can understand why you've gotten to this point. It's just another one of those.
Yeah, you can have empathy for someone even if you disagree with what they do.
Yeah,
Yes.
of course.
And it also explains things like why there are rooms in Hannibal's memory palace that he doesn't go into.
Yeah.
In that he's basically preserved the trauma of his childhood, but chooses not to revisit it, which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Also, I heard that meow.
Oh, yeah. Yes, Boba has started walking around my legs.
Cute.
It's so loud.
The child is
adorable.
here. At least
Love
Honey's
the
asleep.
child.
Oh.
He's looking at me. So, connected to this, Misha is brought up a fair amount in this episode. She was Hannibal's little sister. According to Chiyoh, a man murdered her and Hannibal wanted to kill him, but she stopped him. So instead, he locked the man up and left Chiyoh in charge of him. From conversations with Will and Chiyoh, and Hannibal and Bedelia, we are left with the impression that at some stage, Hannibal ate Misha, though he lied to Chiyoh about it. But there are some minor differences in perspective on the matter. So what did you think about Misha's demise?
what I got out of it was that the whole there was a whole reason why he became a cannibal, and I'm not sure why I got this out of it. I think there's a lot of headcanons that I keep making up.
Well, you
Was that
might also have inklings of the books or films, possibly.
maybe was that he was his sister was killed by that man, and then he was fed to his sister, and then he kind of went. He kind of took that trauma and went with it. I'm not sure why.
All I will say about that is in the show canon, no.
Okay. But yeah, and I think I got that from the multiple teasing of he ate her and but yeah, it might have just been he ate her to memorialize her for him, because that's kind of his ritual to do so. So yeah, because we get the hint with the final saying that he's gonna have to eat Will. Sorry, Melissa, I just I disturbed you. Please go ahead.
No. I was just thinking pretty much similar wavelength to you in a way that maybe it was like a sort of way to sort of bring it back to season 1 to honor her body, whatever, blah blah blah. But even that's a bit weird when it's like brother and sister, gross, like eating your sister. I don't know. I think that this bollocks of a man murdered her, Hannibal wanted to kill him, but she stopped it. What, like, I mean, I guess it's technically family, and Hannibal's not going to go against family, so to speak. But I just think that there's like so much context we are not getting, and that is this is like a flipping AI generated summary of just like this happened and that's why, and like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just sort of like a very vague summary of what we've seen was a vague summary of what the story was, and I just don't. I don't know. I actually don't know what to think about it, because I feel like there's so much context that we are not getting, and I don't really buy it for what it is so far, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm not really buying this story quite yet.
So I'm going to go on a very small rant.
Go for it.
It's a short rant, but one I
No,
need
I
to
know
get
you
out.
have a lot of feelings about this, and you said you don't want to tell us until another
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah,
Okay.
so this is like half a rant that I will then
Okay.
finish in a later episode.
Brilliant.
This is the preamble to that rant.
Okay.
I was gonna write the whole thing, and then I was like, oh, they mention her again. So I don't want to say it all now if they're going to mention her again.
Mhm.
So
Get
yeah, I'm going to talk about Misha a little bit. So I've always had issues with this episode, and I used to get quite annoyed about how open-ended they leave her death in the series, because this episode heavily implies that Will doesn't believe that Misha's murderer, the man kept in the cage and watched by Chiyoh, actually killed Misha, and that he thinks Hannibal was the one responsible. It makes it it heavily implies that he doesn't believe what Chiyoh is telling him. And that's what a lot of people took away from the episode.
I think I do see that it makes it seem like, I guess from someone watching it for the first time, like, it does seem like Will doesn't believe her.
Yeah,
but I don't know about maybe later on. It suggests that Will thinks it's Hannibal. I don't get that bit though.
it's a little different towards the end.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah. But I find the whole concept very unsatisfying. There was I won't go into it, but there was a little bit of script that was cut that made it a little bit clearer that Will wasn't implying that, but they cut it and it made it look worse. So yeah, I don't like that story that they're implanting into this episode, because Hannibal would have been very young at the time. He was only 6 years older than Misha.
Okay.
And Misha is typically so even if you take away the fact they've played around with the timeline, Hannibal probably still would have been a teenager. Misha would have been a bit older, but she still would have been a little girl. So the idea that Hannibal actually killed her is just bullshit. Misha is also typically seen as the catalyst for Hannibal's cannibalism, and that version of events wouldn't explain how that would be the case. So there is one small saving grace of Chiyoh saying that Hannibal only does what was done to Misha, but even that in itself is a little bit misleading to what the actual story is. And I would really like to go into detail about what happened to Misha in the books compared to the show's version of events. But because there is another mention of her, I'm going to wait until we get to that episode. But I will say that, yeah, no matter what people take away from this episode, Chiyo's story is accurate in that someone tried to kill Misha, or did successfully kill Misha, and Hannibal made her keep him prisoner. And also, Hannibal ate Misha is also true. Both of those things are true. It's not explained how or why Hannibal would eat Misha, and the show never does.
Right.
So when we get to a later episode, specifically episode 7, I will go into the book's version of events to explain why Misha is considered a catalyst. And that's my little tiny baby rant.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do a little bit of trivia, because I've still got a bunch of it. Yeah, I'm just going to kind of do them in a random order so I can get it all out. So before we do the talking point, let's Janice Poon blog time it up. So my favourite thing that I read this week was that they had a hand double for Chiyo's pheasant prep scene, so that Tao Okamoto wouldn't have to learn how to prepare the birds. But it turned out that the hand double had a bird phobia. So Janice Poon did it instead.
Oh, bless.
So it's Janice Poon's, to my knowledge, her hands that have been jazzed up by a makeup artist to pluck the feathers and stuff. Then we get Hannibal using Anthony Dimmon's leftover arm to create a cured ham, which is then carved and assembled to resemble wing feathers as a nod to Chiyo's pheasants. The entire arm to ham combo is a collaboration between Janice Poon and the prosthetic maker of the show, Francois Dagenou. So you get a combination of both culinary and prop cinematic magic. The ham feathers are plated with a nest of asps made from asparagus, which is another snake reference. The cocktail that Hannibal makes for Sogliato is Punch Romaine, which he mentions was served on the Titanic, and he also mentions that it was created by Escoffier. I don't know if that name sounded familiar at all to either of you.
No.
I'm not surprised with the amount of shit we learned from this show. Escoffier was mentioned by Hannibal in episode 5 of season 1, when Hannibal served Long d'Agneau en papillote, served with a sauce of duxelle and oyster mushrooms, which is a sentence forever burned into my retinas because I referenced it in a piece of fanfiction. But yeah, no, it's just a random thing. Escoffier comes up twice. I won't tell you anything about Escoffier because I've done it on this podcast before.
No.
So, back to talking points. When we first watched this episode together, you were both very taken aback by Will's behaviour, that you didn't recognise him compared to the Will Graham of season 1. Of course, we also see him create his second tableau in this episode, the first being Randall Tyr, one that Hannibal will never even get to see. So tell me more about how you feel about Will right now.
Don't know who this bitch is. I don't know her. I don't know her. I'm not mad. Don't know. I don't know if I'm mad because it's just like new year, new me. But and he's fierce. He's bad. He's that babe. But also low-key, the whole like going weirdly against morals. Like he was down to seek revenge to this guy that fucked him over, and now he's like, oh, I forgive you, I love you so much, I want to eat people with you. Now I'm like, that bit I don't like. I'm like, okay, grow up, okay? There are plenty of other men in the sea. Relax a bit. Do you really want this man? I mean, I know I've been in the same place. We've all been in the same place as queer people. Like, we'll go after this one person as if they are the only person in the entire world, and it's like, okay, open your eyes, babe. We are in a whole ecosystem sea of loads of fish. There are plenty of other ones. You don't have to go for the one that is quite literally eating people and shoved an ear down your throat. Okay? we can dive elsewhere. Is what I'm saying.
Agreed.
So love the new confidence on you, darling, but hate the kind of thing of you going after a toxic man. That's my thoughts and feelings.
God, it's kind of a shocking revelation on how much he's changed. In that sense, like I had thought of him different, which is like I was very Team Will all the way through season 2, and season 3, and season 1, season 2 onwards, and I think now it's very difficult to be anything like being be. Now it's very difficult to be.
Get how hard you went for Hannibal for the most of this entire show.
I know.
Sorry, you were Team Hannibal in season 1,
Yeah,
then
okay,
Team
I
Will in
was
season
Team
2.
You were Team
Team
Hannibal.
Oh yeah, I do. I
for
forgot. I was.
everything.
Yes, I was Team Hannibal. I forgot about that. Yeah, and I was very Team Hannibal. I
Oh
think I
my
am
gosh.
kind of Team Hannibal, but but no, and I became Team Will. Really, that's kind of shocking to me. Considering that is a bit of a, I think he had it in him, but I don't think he'd go this far to kind of mirror Hannibal. Yeah.
Even now, 10 years later, fans often kind of debate about Will,
Yeah.
and the sort of concept of whether he is a victim or a monster.
Mm-hmm.
I'm of the much quieter team of he's neither or he's both.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I
I get
think like the things that Will has experienced have been traumatic. The things that Hannibal has done to him have been terrible. Will always legitimately be a victim of things he didn't deserve.
Mm-hmm.
That does not change the fact that Will is a complex person who has from day one had to admit the fact that he enjoys killing.
But I think monster is a little bit of a...
I say monster is a very exaggerated term because it's a term people often use for Hannibal or the part of Hannibal that is bad.
Yes.
So I don't mean it in a literal sense, but it's like it's kind of the best word I can think of, other than just like bad man.
Yeah, I think he's like both victim and a new bitch. But whether that new bitch is like entirely a good new form, no. But he's also a victim of even getting to this point in the first place. I agree with you. I'm kind of on the fence of like neither/both.
Yeah, he is complex. It can be quite frustrating when there are some people who really want to try and put him in one or the other, which I personally don't understand because I think that erases a lot of what happens to Will and what Will does as well. But we will see more evolution through Series 3 because Series 3 is quite weird. As I've mentioned, like Series 2, it's in 2 halves. So the second half will be quite different. So I'll probably go into more detail on my thoughts on Will when we get to probably the last episode, because that's the episode where I can really go into things I think about without spoilers. Will is fucking complicated. I think it's the easiest we can get to, but I like when you both sort of reacted with shock in this episode when he starts to do the tableau. It makes sense. I think this we had him being honest in Primavera when he was having conversations with Abigail, but you don't expect him to go to this kind of detached, almost borderline malicious behavior, because it's not just him doing this, it impacts someone, and that's Chiyoh, and Chiyoh doesn't deserve that, and that is a little bit too reminiscent of what Hannibal does to Will.
Yeah.
I don't like to think of it as mirroring, and I don't like to think of it as Will behaving like Hannibal, but you can't not make the comparison when Chiyoh's involved.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, I get that. I 100% get that. So yeah, I think with Chiyoh's involvement, you kind of start getting you see someone innocent, completely innocent from both, completely but innocent from both of them. So like with Abigail, you had that, but then you found out that Abigail unfortunately isn't as innocent as she is, and everyone else and then everyone else is falling stones, and then all of the others weren't as close to Hannibal and Will, or like to both at least. Like Alana came close, but she was like a stepping stone for both of them. I feel like although she was like just a barrier for both of them, so it didn't. I feel bad to say this. I didn't feel like she was like this bastion of innocence, in that regard.
Well, Alana's like an intelligent, independent
Yeah,
adult, so she's kind of
Yeah.
different.
she's kind of different. Yeah, with Chiyoh, that you do very much compare Will's behavior towards Chiyoh as Hannah West, because especially the whole you let someone free, and that came back to bite Chiyoh, and then you kind of it's hard not to see that he literally wanted to see if Chiyoh was able to was willing to kill someone or not.
Yeah,
And yeah,
like I do believe him when he says he wanted to free her, and I think in his head that was the right way to go about it. But that is denying that he's doing the curiosity thing that Hannibal does. It is.
Yeah, because if he really wanted to free her, so to speak, he would have just. Why would he not just kill him himself?
yeah.
Or have a fucking conversation with her and be like, "What would
Yeah.
it take for you to leave?"
Yeah,
He doesn't do that. He's just
that as
like,
well.
yeah, he's just like, well, I've come up with an idea and I'll do it. And it's like, that's not how you go about things. And that is, again, that's what Hannibal does. He doesn't consult people. He believes that his way is the right way.
Yeah,
Both of them dickheads.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
I'm right, so this is going to be the right way to do this.
Yeah, it's pompous. It really is. So I've got a few other random bits and pieces just to say about the like Lithuanian side of this episode. So the script explicitly specifies that there are no subtitles for the caged man when he's speaking Lithuanian, so that the audience is as lost as Will is, because Will doesn't speak Lithuanian. So obviously, I did a quick Google Translate, and basically the stuff he's like repeating to Will and Chiyoh is answer, speak, and please. And he also says, she doesn't talk to me, she never talks to me. There are two exceptions that are different when Will frees the caged man, and in the script it actually says these two statements are subtitled, but obviously they chose not to do that in the end. One of them is when... I'm trying to make sure I've got this right. Yeah, one of them is when Will frees him, and outside he asks Will, "Who am I?"
Mm-hmm.
Which is a bit weird. And then when he's trying to kill Chiyoh, he's saying to her, "Speak to me."
Oh.
So, as awful as he is, like, it's confirmed definitely he did kill Misha. It's also like it's hard not to have some sympathy there for the way he's been treated for something like 25 years.
Yeah.
In this episode, Chiyoh refers to Hannibal as Nakama and says that it means a very close friend. So obviously, because I'm a weeb, I had to look into this, because the word friend I'm more used to in Japanese would be tomodachi. So tomodachi tends to be more light-hearted. It's like someone you have fun with. But nakama can also mean like an ally or a colleague, so it carries kind of a different weight. A nakama can be someone that you consider a friend, even if you don't necessarily like them, you'll still have their back, which I think is very interesting when applied to Hannibal and Will.
Yeah.
And then finally, Chiyoh also says to Will, "All sorrows can be born if you put them in a story." That is a quote from Isaac Dinesen, real name Karen Blixen, who was a Danish writer, most prolific through the 30s to the late 50s. I won't go into her work because it'll take up too much time, but I did want to tell you just a random quote I read from her because I thought it was great. She was writing a letter to her brother, and she wrote, "I have begun to do what we brothers and sisters do when we don't know what else to resort to. I've started to write a book. I've been writing in English because I thought it would be more profitable." So she just sounds awesome.
That's
so then,
amazing.
For our last just little talking point, because I asked it in old episodes when there were more tableaus, so I have to ask it. On the note of Will's tableau, what did you think of it in terms of design?
I thought it was very pretty.
Which
It
one?
is.
Yes.
Big dragonfly, firefly,
Yes, I was going to
glass
say
thing.
it does look like a dragonfly. I was. I
Yeah, I
remember
thought it was a dragonfly.
weird, but also a little bit like sweet at the same time, but definitely backing up the whole thing of Hannibal.
Yeah, it's a very Hannibal-esque thing to do.
Mhm.
It's elaborate and also beautiful. Like the Randall tier tableau was like kind of cool and suitable and fitting to Randall, but this one feels more Hannibal-esque because it's very artistic.
Yeah.
Also, the rope tying is kind of interesting because like the rope ties across like the torso are very shibari, like rope bondage. So you could take from that Will knows rope bondage. We know that Will has worked with boat motors and stuff and worked on the docks with his dad, so there's a little bit of suggestion there as, of course, Will is good with ropes. So this isn't out of nowhere. Will has rope knowledge, which is cool. I like the glass and stuff, and then all the snails as well. It's very cool. It's one of my favorite tableaus. It's a lot of people's favorites. A lot of people like to talk about the fact that the saddest thing about it is that it's somewhere that Hannibal will not go. So he's done this thing that Hannibal would probably be like proud of and will really want to see. Like all Hannibal wants is for Will to come into his own and accept that he can be violent, and he never gets to see it. So that's kind of sad. But
it kind of gives me,
so
you know, like when you're infatuated with someone and you're really like into them, and it's almost like a brand new love kind of thing. You sort of like take interest in their interest and sort of are like, oh yeah, I've always been into like arts and crafts. Like, what do you mean? Like, I've always made like cute little trinkets and stuff. Like, this is so me. This is so my new personality. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like that. He's like, oh, my boyfriend does this. So like, I'm gonna be into it as well, and like, this is what I do. Like, it's so like, I'm doing it because my boyfriend does it.
I think there's also an element of it that's kind of like a tribute to Misha as well, which I think is like sad but kind of sweet, and again, kind of like something that would mean something to Hannibal that he never gets to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, this episode is very Misha-centric.
It is very Misha-centric.
For a character we never meet, it's hard not to feel very sad just for the knowledge of that a little girl lost her life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I've only one extra little thing to say before we go on to our enemy bits, which is that Hannibal says in this episode, I was rooting for Mephistopheles and contemptuous of Faust, which is another nod to Hannibal being the devil.
Yeah,
yes.
100% got that.
I
did put that as one of my favorite quotes mentions. So, but I won't mention it now.
Yeah. On that note,
yeah,
on to the ending bits.
Okay, cool. So I'll start with my favorite quotes, which I have a lot. Like I would have written down the whole script. It's pretty good. It was a pretty good thing to quote. So let's go with some of the more serious ones, right? Okay. My city mocks me. My hunt for because I love the detective. My city mocks me. My hunt for real monstro. For il monstro, yeah, has left the crow's pecking peck at my heart. How is your heart? Well pecked. I like that. And then the nice kind of serious one from Jack. Will Graham understands Hannibal? He accepts him. Now, who amongst us doesn't want understanding and acceptance?
Mm-hmm.
And in the same vein, Will has a similar quote. I've never known myself as well as I know myself when I'm with him. Like similar vein, like acceptance.
You probably won't be surprised to know that's like one of the most popular quotes of the whole series.
Oh, amazing!
It's like one of the few examples of Will being kind of romantic about Hannibal.
Yeah. We know who's the wife in the relationship. And who's the husband?
100%. Hannibal is, as I've tried to say before, male wife material.
Male wife. Well, you have got to kind of be a good person to be male wife, I think.
No.
Okay, maybe not. As long as you're good, as long as you're a good person to your partner, which he isn't as well. So it's very difficult to call him a male wife, in my opinion.
Give them time.
Okay, maybe it's just the toxic relationship part of the relationship, right? And then I'm gonna go with my one that I just made me laugh. When when the lungs whistle, the dish is done. I like that one.
Oh, that's a
And
good
then
idea.
Hannibal being a sassy bitch. Technically, you killed him.
Such a good line.
And then we've already mentioned this, but Bedelia also being a sassy bitch. How did your sister taste?
So evil.
So evil. And then we will go to my actual favorite quote, because I just really liked Chiyoh, and Chiyoh very quotable. All he's allowed is the sound of water. It's what the unborn hear. It's their last memory of peace. You're keeping him like an animal? I wouldn't do this to an animal.
I wouldn't do this to an animal is one of my favourite line
it is
readings of this whole episode.
Such a good line. That line itself made this whole quote my favourite quote. Yeah.
So good.
Anyway, on to Melissa.
So just to reiterate, Shira's favourite quote is the whole script.
Oh, you say that, you haven't heard mine yet.
Yeah.
And okay, so Shira's favourite quote is half the script. Felix is the other half. Anyway, my quote is it's kind of like a two quotes. You have a very good butcher. I do indeed. You bastard. You jammy, cocky bastard.
Such a shit.
He's such a knob, and he just like, yeah, I do indeed. And that butchers me.
Yeah, I
Want to exhibit my skills in person? That's it. That's all I have.
Cool.
Because I have self-control. I'm joking.
Oh no, that's valid. We clearly don't.
And now for the other half of the script. Go on.
So, you'll be relieved to know Shira's already said a couple of them.
Oh,
I'm going to go through them quite quickly.
Out of the 80.
I'll go through them quickly. My little shout outs for some fun quotes is at the start, Bedelia asking, was it nice to see him? And Hannibal saying, it was nice, among other things. Then, of course, I have to mention this one because of the gay. Bedelia saying betrayal and forgiveness are best seen as something more akin to falling in love. And Hannibal saying you cannot control with respect to whom you fall in love.
Another reason why they're both definitely romantic.
Hannibal literally in two separate occasions in this episode, at the start and the end, says in a poetic way that he's in love with Will.
Exactly.
The gay men in love, get over it.
I don't care what anyone says. He does that in this episode.
He also, literally also in this episode, literally was like, you could say we were like intimate among other things or whatever it was.
Yeah.
With like how they know each other. Oh, intimately.
Yeah, how did you know one could
what the
say
fuck else do you expect that to be other than he's certain body parts inside of him somehow?
I mean, Hannibal did literally penetrate Will.
Yeah.
On a completely unrelated note, because I've never mentioned it, and in this episode we get to see Will's scar, a lot of people like to point out that Hannibal murdered Abigail and Will's scar is kind of like a C-section scar.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
It's heartbreaking is that?
That is heartbreaking. Hannibal.
This man is fucked up, and then this Will man is still like, but I love him. There is so many more people in the world.
But no one will ever see Will like Hannibal does, just like no one can see Hannibal like Will does.
There is billions of people on this planet. I'm sure there's at least another 3 that will see him in the same way.
No one would accept.
It just not be someone that eats people.
But it's Hannibal's violence that allows him to see Will's violence. That's why it works, even though it's terrible. Anyway,
I've seen very few people like that.
On the note of Shaira saying technically you killed him, I also love that may have been impulsive.
Yeah, heck yeah.
I had that I've never known myself as well as I know myself when I'm with him quote as well, because it's beautiful. Special honourable mention to I have to eat him. Yes. But my favourite line of this entire episode, because it's Hannibal partly being honest and partly just showing how traumatized he is, and the fact that he doesn't blame his trauma on his actions, is him saying nothing happened to me, I happened.
Wow.
I love that line because it's like Hannibal saying I'm aware of what I do and I don't blame the fact that like I was a traumatized orphan.
Yeah.
Which is heartbreaking because I don't think he genuinely gives himself sympathy when he probably should, and maybe he'd be a little bit healthier if he
He
did.
maybe should give himself a bit of sympathy.
Yeah. Yeah, as terrible as Hannibal is, maybe if he'd been a bit nicer to himself when he was younger, he wouldn't be quite so cruel. But who knows?
Maybe.
Favorite moments.
Favorite moments. Oh, okay. This one's much more simpler than what I read out. Pretty much half the script. My favorite moment is. Actually, honorable mention first. My favorite, one of my favorite moments was the way the Hannibal stabbed the guy in the head, and the acting, and just how cool it looked. Because I think that's how similarly how it would work when someone gets stabbed in the head.
That's why it makes me so uncomfortable.
I know, and I find that really cool. Like, I don't know. It's a weird way. Actually, I don't know. I think it's because of the fact that. I don't know. Okay, there is a reason why I like it. It's more the fact that brains are cool, bodies are cool, and even when dying or in death, they're still cool because they do these weird neurological cool things. Like, yeah, okay, like the synapses sparking during death, or like when you're decaying. Entropy is really cool as well. Okay, I'm weird. We already established this. That I want to be a mortician.
Yeah, you take that moment. I'm proud of you for being open about it.
Exactly. And then my favorite my favorite moment is every moment with Chiyoh.
There,
She's
Alex.
pretty, and I
so
want to be her best friend. Okay. On to you, Melissa.
That was it. Yeah, no other 500 others. I'm not that I'm judging. I'm happy to listen.
I mean, I can sit here and reenact all the moments of Chiyoh if you want me to.
The entire show.
The entire episode and every line that Chiyoh has.
Amazing. Okay, all I'm gonna do is read out my notes or my favorite moment, which is just 2 words. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Head stabby.
Head stabby, I knew.
That was it. It's just funny, just the way that it was so caught us by surprise, just out of nowhere. All you just see is thunk. Like it was just something out of like, I don't know, like a animation or something. And then he's just there and he just starts laughing. It was so weird and eerie and quite funny at the same time.
And he just continued to eat.
I just like that it was so juxtaposing and everything going on was just a lot of mixed emotions. I thought it was just really funny.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one who likes that, and I'm not the only one who fucked up.
Yeah, it was funny.
I didn't choose that moment. You'll be glad. Sorry for being
outsider.
Mine is really simple and quite boring, which is just all of the little quiet talking scenes between Hannibal and Bedelia. Just because it's getting harder to tell who's actually in control of the situation, and the fact that Hannibal is very clearly unraveling in a very interesting and weird way, and that he's kind of vulnerable and dangerous at the same time. Yes, I know you're there, motherfucker.
He's saying, like, tell him. I know, I agree with this bit.
And he's like, I love Bedelia.
No.
But yeah, that was my favourite moment. So, next episode predictions, please.
Next episode prediction. Okay, this is one of the things that I haven't got next episode prediction. You know what? I'm just going to make it fun.
Yeah, do it.
Will and Chiyoh take a well-deserved vacation to the Bahamas. Have some Bahama Mamas, which is a drink that I know from Scrubs because I love Scrubs. Scrubs is very very good, but also has problematic elements. Don't judge me. I know that.
It's of the time.
It's of the time. Anyway, yes, and then also them two will create their own cannibal family in spite of Hannibal, because Hannibal he keeps killing his cannibal family, and I want a cannibal family. God damn it!
Fair.
Okay, that's my predictions.
I agree To a very, very short extent. I think they are both going to go on their little trip, and then I don't know. They're gonna meet up with Hannibal together, and Hannibal's gonna lose it when he sees Chiyoh and be like, and then I think she dies.
Jolly.
Why? I
Mm.
don't want her to die. But to be honest, everyone that I love dies. So it's fine. This show hurts me. I know it hurts me.
Everyone dies eventually. Do you want to know what's really funny?
Yeah.
This is the first time ever that both of you have come up with a prediction that's very similar to mine,
Oh God! Amazing.
Oh.
which is kind of special.
Yeah.
My prediction that I wrote was, now with Chiyoh, Will start forming his own cannibal family and create a rivalry with Hannibal.
Oh, I love that.
Amazing.
Yeah, we're all pretty much on the same line there.
Yes.
Yay.
And we're still gonna get gay sex, but it's gonna
Obviously.
be Chiyoh
Oh,
with
yeah.
a lesbian partner,
Up the bum.
and we're always gonna be like, go, 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 go. Yeah.
Well, my dears, are you ready for the sign-off?
I'm
Yeah.
never ready for the sign off.
Oh,
But
shit.
I am.
My sign-off this week is a surprise old face and someone with a new face. What could all that mean? Fate and Circumstance is an independent podcast brought to you by Felix Fanfaron Fern, Melisa Suzan, and Shaira Bambi. You can find and follow us on Twitter and Tumblr at HannibalPod. We are fans of the show NBC's Hannibal and do not own the rights to any of the materials discussed, merely appreciators. The music used in this podcast is Tchaikovsky's Op. No. 40 Waltz by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. Thanks for listening.